Welcome to This Week in the PNFL. I'm your host, Mark Hill, and as always is my co-host, Mitch Grawl. How you doing, Mitch?
Fantastic. Great to be here, Mark. Great to be
All
here.
right, and so how has these past couple of weeks been going for you? Pretty good?
Actually pretty miserable since I have not been able to game plan for any games, and I'm already I was at withdrawals about 3 weeks ago, but glad to be back talking about the PNFL again. So I'm feeling better.
Yes,
Feeling better.
most definitely, and I'm just trying to get my stuff together too for the upcoming season. There's so much been going on, but what I'd like to let you guys know is that we have two special guests. We have PNFL royalty here with us. We have Charlie Rogers and we have Rich Colacino. How you doing, commish and co-commish? How you doing today?
Looking good.
I'm doing pretty good. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys.
All right.
here.
You're perfect. So I know that there's been a lot going on in the league at the off season and with the signings, with the contracts coming out for the signings, and with the cuts that we had to make. I think the deadline was today. So if I can ask both of you, you can each take your own turn. So how are these going as far as getting the contracts lined up with the cuts? Is everybody doing everything that they're supposed to be doing? Is there some teams that are still lacking? Where's the league state in play as far as getting all those things taken care of for the league?
That's your baby, Rich.
Yeah, I think every team has checked in except for the New York Giants. I did reach out to Sean. He has texted me. I believe he's going to get it done by the time this finishes up. So we should be pretty good to go for tomorrow.
Okay, perfect. So right now, so the basic rules of this, and gentlemen, please jump in there as you see fit. At the end of the season, we have our contract comes out in the spreadsheet form. You see the teams that are coming out with some of the players that have the red beside them, telling them that they failed their physical. The teams have to make a decision what they want to do. You have the player roles that we have to see if whether their numbers are going to lie, if their points are going to drop, their attributes are going to drop, and then we go into the contract phase. And then based off of how many years you want to sign them for, there's so many points that they're going to be allocated for each one. And we have a certain set of points. So for the most part, everyone's been following those. Now, those points that were left over, and this is for either one of you, those points that are left over, how is that going to factor in as far as after our draft? If someone's used up too many points and they can't sign their players, how does that, the pros and cons of the point?
Well, it's impossible for you to use too many points because the draft picks have already been factored in to the points. So what you see for the point totals are what that no one's going to run out of points. So it's not going to be a problem. Everyone is fine. No team is in trouble, not even the Giants. So really, it's not going to be a problem. In fact, I would make the case that we need to continue to reduce the point allocations because no team is ever in trouble. Everyone re-signs every one of their players every year, and that is not like the NFL. So that's why you see reductions every year and why I get pushback from Jerry, our esteemed owner in Washington, who gives me hell every day, that I'm taking away too many of your points. But the truth is, the points need to be lower.
Now, if I could ask this question, because I was looking through this, I know that during our season, we get the, and I think Mitch puts them up as well, as far as the point spread, and you can bet on them. I think I know I haven't been betting on them. Now, based off of that, do we get points? Do we get points added if we beat the spread, or does that even factor in the league, or is it just totally separate?
I put the spreads out, and then there's 3 winners per week. So it's 3 points given out each week, 1 to 3 different owners. And this was an issue with Jerry too, and he's right about this, that certain teams, the Jets, the Cardinals, and maybe the Raiders, they're winning every week. And that is a problem.
Oh, the Raiders won't be winning that much this season. Not when they play Seattle.
If you look at the point distribution, you look at the points for the gambling, the same teams are winning, and the reason is because we're getting 7, maybe 8 coaches participating, which means the smart coaches out there who play each week, they're gonna earn 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 points per season because other coaches are not participating. So that is a problem, but I'm not going to punish the teams who do participate.
Right. So
Now,
go ahead.
if I heard right there, Mark, I think Rich might have just said that I was a smart coach. I don't know. Maybe I misunderstood him there.
I think he's being nice because it's a Sunday.
I'm just being nice right now.
He's feeling the spirit of Sunday. So
well, but here's the thing: Mitch does participate each week, and I appreciate that. And so he does win his share of gambling weeks there. The teams who participate every week are almost guaranteed to win 5 or 6 points. It's actually quite easy to earn those extra points, and they do matter. And other teams, they don't participate at all, and they get a big fat 0, and that's on them.
Well, I will admit I'm one of them. I have been one in the past, but that will change this season. So
Well,
that will be.
look at it this way. It doesn't take a lot of time to figure out who you want to bet on, and if you win, like Rich says, 5 or 6 points. I mean, I'll take 5 or 6 points any season because I can now bid 5 or 6 points on some free agent that I can really use.
Yeah, and 5 or 6 points is a cut. You could sign a couple of your own players.
Exactly.
So I don't know why teams don't spend the 30 seconds to do it. And when Jerry suggested to me maybe we get rid of it or half the point amount given out, I rejected it. I'm not going to I don't want to punish teams who are participating. I want the guys who aren't participating to actually spend the 30 seconds. Send me 9 teams and a few numbers, and you're good to go.
Now, if I can ask this question, if we're looking at reducing the points for the league, is there a way that you could reduce the points to a particular situation to where that can try to draw more coaches in because they're saying, hey, I used to have these points in my pocket, but now I don't. I'm going to have to go out there to bet so I can pull those extra points in. So it kind of gives them a little bit of an incentive to be participating more in the league.
I don't think that's not gonna make guys participate in the gambling. The gambling is only a small part of it. The point allocations given out each season, they have been trending down. They used to be 65. I believe now it's 57. I think they have it at. And you're going to go down to 55, 54 next year. The idea is I'm trying to take points out of the economy to make them more valuable. And also, I have yet to see one team in this league in I don't know how many seasons actually have to lose a player because they cannot afford him. It is never happened.
Right.
And that's not reality. That's not reality. And I believe many seasons ago we had on the forum about this where we wanted a more robust free agency. Well, it can't be robust if plenty of teams can sign every single one of their players every year.
So they go through and they re-sign them. Yeah, something to make it a little bit more, like you said, a little bit more realistic of what's actually happening in the real league. If we can just go in there and say, I don't care what I do, I know I'm going to sign everybody, so I'm good to go. Give him more of a challenge.
Exactly. I mean, everyone can complain about the Jets or the Cardinals or whoever. These teams are able to re-sign every one of the star players every season. There's never a problem, never a question. And the reason is because there are just too many points in the economy right now. I'm hoarding, even the color hoarding a little bit, but some of that smart. Smart. They've been running their teams very well. The Cardinals done a great job with contracts and running their team. And you look at their players long term. Their advantage to being smart with your points and signing players long term. You get a break, you get a discount on that. So other teams, they want to sign players 2 points or 2 years, 4 points. They do that over and over and over again, and it doesn't really help them. It's not really a good to do it.
Okay. So
I know
Charlie
one
D.
thing when it comes to I know one thing when it comes to the points. I like the fact that the new anti-aging rules are into play because now I know when I was looking at my roster for which team who was going to restructure, I did hand out more long-term contracts this time than I normally do because I knew that when it got to a certain year level that I was no longer going to have full control over whether they stayed or not. So I figured, might as well go ahead and sign them to that spot, and then we'll see what happens.
That's exactly right. You know ahead of time that, let's say, a receiver, when he gets to his 8th year, when he's showing 8, that the next season he's going to age. So if you have
Oh, did we lose him?
Sounds like you lost them.
I think we did.
I think he got so fired up he broke his phone. I don't know. I don't know.
Well,
I
I'll
think
tell you
Mark,
what, I really have to
question.
compliment Rich on coming up with the idea where he simulates all of that stuff because he took at least a week out of the off season where he's waiting for everybody to send in their dice rolls and all that kind of stuff. So he did a really good job on that.
It's worked out very well. And also James gets credit for this too. Me and James, we must have sent 50 emails back and forth discussing this. James is the originator of this idea that I tweaked, and me and him talked about different loopholes to pull out. And so it really worked out well, and I'm glad that the coaches kind of leaned into this and said, let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. That is perfect. I mean, I don't think there's any. I think it's pretty much cut dry and straightforward to it. So, anything that you want to add to that, Mitch?
No, but I do think we should talk a little bit about this upcoming draft. What do you think?
Well, we're gonna get to that, but we got 2 other items. So, tell you what, let's talk about the draft first, and then we'll deal with the big elephant in the room after that, which is the play. So, So going over the draft. We'll ask both of you gentlemen. So what are the upcoming plans for the draft? I know that there has been some discussion about upping the numbers for the players, the actuals, when they draft them and their potentials. What's the state of play in that? What are we going to be expecting in the upcoming draft for the players?
All right, let me sort of summarize it in a nutshell. Over the last few seasons, maybe 5, there's been too many concerns raised about too many superstars. So since I do all of the drafting for the whole, whatever it is, 300 plus players that we do every season, I started spreading it out, making less people with, max speeds for cornerbacks and that kind of stuff. And I've gradually spread it out. And this year, I sort of exaggerated it even more, where you can probably see with some of the, especially the speed qualities in the cornerbacks and safeties. And I also lowered some of the numbers. You're going to see speeds down to, 76, 77. And you're probably saying, well, geez, these guys are in wheelchairs out there. What you got to do is look at their other attributes, because I literally set up some players out there that have, they're 5 points off their max speed, but they're maxing the other 7 attributes. So, you need to consider that. It's like, okay, do I have a slower cornerback, but the guy's like a superstar in intelligence and discipline and hands, and he might be slow, but he's going to be picking off passes, that kind of stuff. So I tried to make it this season where you're really going to have to analyze it, and Rich can verify going back, and you guys that have been in there for a long time. I mean, you had really good players all the way through the 3rd round. Well, what I've tried to do over the last couple of years is the really good players didn't get past the 2nd round. And I think this year, somebody already made a comment, after the 1st round, everything drops off the cliff. So you're really going to have to do some evaluations. The second thing with the draft is that I've changed the random boost, which is hopefully will keep people from trying to hoard 5, 6, and 7 rounds of players, because you've got a potential out there. Let's take one of the examples that I used before, where you've got a player that's only an 80 speed with a max of 83 potential, but he's maxed out in everything else. Well, if that player gets drafted in the 6th or 7th round and you get 3 points, well, you can take his 80 speed up to 82, and all of a sudden you got yourself a superstar, which is exactly what I was trying to do.
Well, I'll tell you, I love the draft pool, and I think in conjunction with the new anti-aging process we're going through, I think this is going to make the league have a lot more differentiation of ratings among players, create more differentiation of rosters among teams. And even with that, one thing that I've done just to kind of look at, some of the attributes for these players as you have been changing the draft, is I just went and pulled all of the, say, for example, the cornerbacks, and looked at the potential speed maxes for the cornerbacks that are listed as 4 years or less experience. And if you look at all of those players and average them up, there are 151 of them when you count the free agents as well as the draft pool into that. The average speed rating, even all that's it, is still 81. I mean, that's still, I don't think we could say there's still not enough speed out there, but not everybody is going to be max at 83, which I think is fantastic. Can't all have Deion Sanders. But even when you look at the draft pool, one thing that I did was just kind of look at, hey, you know what? Regardless of position, how many of these draft eligible players do we have based on their max potential ratings? Where would they fall in the overarching ranking, if you will, of all the players, including the free agents at their position?
In potential, you mean?
Yeah, and so I'm looking at
well,
this.
I could tell you that right now. I'm calling it up on my spreadsheet.
Yeah, I've got, for the first 3 rounds, I've got players that are in the top 25% of the position. So I think it's looking really good.
Well, here, we've got, let me just give you a recap on the cornerbacks real quick. Yeah. We've got, of all of the cornerbacks, I don't know, there's 40 of them or 50 of them, only 3 have a max speed of 83 out of the whole draft pool. One guy I've got ranked at 39th overall when compared to everybody else for potential. The next guy with the 83 speed is ranked at 159th, and the next guy is ranked at 218th. That's overall potential for that individual. So you've got 3 guys out there that have max speed, but you got to take a look at a guy that's got max speed. I'll take one of these guys real quick. He's 2 off on energy, 2 off on hands, 3 off on strength. So you need to factor in all of that. So it should, like I said, it should be an interesting draft because people are going to have to analyze what's out there.
Yeah, well, like I said, when I look at regardless of position and just looking at where, like if you, based on my calculations and the formulas that I use, I mean, the first 3 rounds of the draft, you should be able to find players in the top 25% of their position group. And then it drops off in the 4th round, about the upper 3rd, 5th round, upper 50%. By the time you get that 6th and 7th round, which is what you would expect, you're not going to find players that are going to be starters unless they get the boost. like you
But
said.
that's the whole point. It's not
Yeah,
supposed to
that's the
be
whole
like
point.
that, right?
Exactly. And I remember in the past, I would find solid starters, or at least, maybe not starters, but maybe wide receiver threes or linebacker threes in the sixth round, and
I
so I
don't
think
know
this
if
is
coaches
fantastic.
I don't know if coaches have ever done this, but if they ever go back on the website, there are rosters from day one, 43 seasons ago. You
Yeah.
look at those rosters from the first decade of the league. There was far more diversity. You had wide receivers with 79 speed playing, literally wide receiver 3 or 4 or 5, and it goes through all the positions. The attributes were far more diverse than they became. Somewhere in the middle of the league after the first decade, unfortunately, all of us are guilty of this. We started catering to the coaches who wanted beef. They wanted great draft picks. And we would have 5, 6, 7 rounds full of players. And this took place for decades. So
Yeah. Well, I think what we've got going here is looking really good. That's my opinion. I don't know, Mark. What do you think?
We've got wide receivers down to speeds of 78 in this draft.
I love it.
I told you. I saw that one linebacker, and in particular that what do you call it, was looking pretty solid on some of my overall rankings, and I looked at his speed, and I was like, whoa. There's no 7 in front of that. What the heck?
And
I'll tell you what, I've got one linebacker I'm looking at right now. He's got a speed of 69.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
And everyone has to abandon the reality that, let's say, a wide receiver, he enters the NFL at his peak speed, probably. Well, you have to abandon that for this league. And if there's a wide receiver with 78 speed, so be it. You train his speed for the next few seasons.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Well, when I first came into the league, I remember I think one of my early conversations with you guys, because one of the questions was, why are you drafting some of these guys? And I was looking for the speed of, like in some of my previous leagues, the speeds were a lot higher. They were like in the mid 80s or upper 80s. You might have one guy that was like in a 90 for a receiver, but all his other attributes just sucked. So, and the first thing I found out was like, yeah, you're not going to see those numbers in this league. So you had to kind of look at other things. What are some of the other attributes you have? Like you mentioned earlier, Charlie, that maybe their speed's not that high, but their intelligence, discipline, their endurance, and their hands for a cornerback or receiver may be higher. So you have to look at some of the different things and not really focus on that overall, can he just take the top off and just go burning down the field? You got to look at other numbers. So I've had to kind of look at it. And as I'm looking at the draft now, I got to kind of figure out, how am I going to rethink myself or retrain myself from previous leagues? And I've told a couple other people that I've talked to that was considering joining this league, it's like, don't think it's like the leagues you've played back when the game was popular and everyone was saying, oh, I want these high numbers. This is more of a thinking league, more of a, you have to make sure that you plan properly, because it's just not a burner league. You have to do a lot more thinking, which, as I've played it more and more seasons, especially this last season, I really started to get into it. It's finally starting to make sense to me and slowing down to understand, okay, I have to plan this stuff out right. It's not Madden. And I don't want it to be Madden. I want it to be what it is right now, where you have to think. You have to be a manager. You have to be a coach. You let the players play, but you got to make sure you put everything in place for them. And that's the thing that I've really liked about this league compared to other leagues that I've been in.
Good.
Well, that's the difference between the original football pro leagues, where you'd have a wide receiver at 95.
Yep.
But he could be going against a cornerback who had 75 speed. So then in one play, 80 yards, touchdown. So you'd get scores of 83 to 52. And that's why, and Charlie can answer this, that's why the whole VPNFL attribute system, that's what probably prompted all that.
And that's what I was kind of segueing into. So Charlie, for those coaches that haven't been around that long or involved in this league, can you explain a little bit, like a brief overview of the point scheme as far as how it started and where it's at right now?
Well, we've gone through several iterations. The point scheme basically is your money. We actually had a program at one time where you had to try to sign your players. They could reject it, that kind of stuff. And the money thing, we had at least half the league complaining about, managing the money and stuff. So we ended up by adopting a point system, which in effect is your dollars. Rich, about 10 seasons ago?
Oh, the points have been in for maybe 20 seasons. I think.
Have it been that much?
Yeah, they were in place when I came back in, and I came back in about 10 seasons ago. So they've been around for a long time.
For a very long time. I mean, I don't even know offhand.
Yeah, but the whole idea is to try to make it easier for everybody. We wanted one of the game is an attraction itself, but the amount of rules that we've got to try to stay pace with the NFL as much as possible and keep the game fair for everybody really is formidable for a lot of people to join the league. And so we've tried over the years to make it easier to try to get people to join.
Okay, perfect. So let's move to the elephant in the room right now. Or do you have anything else you want to add to that, Mitch? Any other questions you may have?
No, let's go kill some elephants.
All right, let's go kill some elephants. So I will do the lead in, and I'll let the three of you gentlemen go with it. So the biggest thing that everyone's been talking about now are the plays in the league. I think Charlie and Richard can talk about how big the playbook has gotten as far as where the coaches pull from. So what you guys have done, you've gone through, and the coaches will submit plays. You guys will review them. If you approve them, they go into the play pool, and then we can all feed off of those. You've gone through and went through and doing a major scrub of those. So if you can talk a little bit about and try to clear up some things that's been going back and forth in the emails as far as where we stand with the offense and defensive plays, what's staying, what's going, the duplicates, and the rules that you have for this upcoming season as far as the plays that coaches might submit into the league.
I can talk about the scrubbing since I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Charlie sent me a combined log file for the last 3 seasons, which I thought was that was a reasonable amount. So, and from that, I have deleted every play on offense that was never called even one time. If it was called one time and gave up an 80-yard touchdown, it remained in there. So it had to be called by someone. Those plays were deleted. I then added back every custom play from 2022, whether it was called or not. And that basically resulted in about 1,000 plays being deleted from offense.
Wow.
On defense, I'm only halfway through, so I don't have the results yet. But I'm finding it's pretty similar. You could probably expect another 1,000 to be deleted from defense, I guess. I'll know in another day or two. But I believe that it's necessary to do this. I don't see the reason. I don't understand the logic of some of these coaches why bother doing it at all, right? That was Justin's question. It's a fair question, but the better question is why leave them in? If nobody uses them, then why leave them in?
Plus, we have to purge at some point because the game has a limitation where once we hit that number, whatever that number is, and we've never been able to figure it out exactly, what happens is the next play that we add to the file, I end up by sending in a run middle play. When you go into the game won't show it. They disappear. They won't show it. You've got to cut back.
Exactly.
So there's a system limitation that makes us purge these things at least once every 5 years or so.
Exactly. And I think it's good for the league to do that because there are a lot of plays in there that were literally 20 years old. 20 years, not 20 seasons, 20 years old. And nobody's using these plays. No one's ever going to use these plays. It's time to get rid of all that stuff. And I think what it could do is it could spur some of these coaches who do like to create plays to create new plays, which is what you want. You want new play creation based on the actual talent. We don't need 1,000 plays in there that were created back in the 2002 season when, as we said, my wide receiver was 80 speed. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's what I was going to actually say is that I was looking through the deleted plays, and there were in each category with some hundreds of plays deleted, but there's still hundreds of plays still available out there, particularly with just about everything except for goal line pass, goal line run, and razzle dazzle. I mean, there's almost 200 pass medium plays. 260 some odd run middle plays, which I mean, goodness gracious,
Exactly.
How many different ways can you run the ball? I don't know.
You only need 5 passes, right?
Right. So I think we got plenty there. But what you were saying about spurring the some of the getting the wheels turning, I was actually thinking, there are some plays that were deleted that I have had in my kind of my practice pool, if you will. Obviously, I haven't called them in 3 seasons, but I'm thinking, you know what? I had them in there at some point. Maybe I will take a look at a handful of those, make some tweaks, and
exactly.
maybe submit them back in. Yeah,
that is exactly what I'd like to see: is people to take that zip file of 1,000 plays and actually take them and edit them, make them better, make them work, and then resubmit them. That's fine.
And no duplicates where it's the same play. You load it, change the name, don't change any routes, don't change any logic, and just submit it as your own.
Well, Charlie can answer to that because he's the one who.
That's why I mentioned it.
You mean all the defensive slasher plays that we had to get rid of?
Well, I try to identify clones or pretty close to clones. But I also don't want to discourage people from making plays. So it's at some point it's arbitrary on my part. I try to be fair.
Charlie, I have a question for you. Is it considered a duplicate if the play is pretty much identical, but they've changed all the personnel? With the idea that I want to get this personnel on the field, I want to rest, let's say, my defensive end 1 and 2, and I want can you put defensive end 3 and 4 out there, or is that not legal?
No, you can, and the thing is that I like to see multiple players that are changed, and maybe even some of the logic. But when I get a play from an unnamed coach. Where he's changing the cornerback 4 to the safety 3 and resubmitting it and saying, "Oh, it's a brand new play." That's total bull. It's not really a brand new play. And to answer your other question, Rich, what a lot of people don't realize they want to put different personnel in there. Well, the different personnel, in my opinion, is only good for a couple of plays. If you got a defensive player in there and it's a long drive, guess what? That player is going to change just because of his energy. So
the game is going to change it, right? With the substitution.
Exactly. Your cornerback 2 is going to become your cornerback 3, and your defensive end 2 is going to become a 3, and so the game is going to change it anyway.
Right. So it's not really a legit play then. If you're just changing personnel, it's essentially not doing anything because all the players are going to get on the field anyway in that 12-play drive.
Exactly.
Well, see, I would see this more from an offensive standpoint, to where a first down plays, the personnel I may prefer to use on first down plays may look different than the personnel I want to use, say, on offense on third down plays, and so I might be heavy. Tight ends, running a certain type of play, certain routes. Third down, I might want to run the same type of play or a type of route, but I might want to have more wide receivers on the field. So I could see where on offense there might be able to be a little bit more differentiation, but on defense, since you can use a lot of the same play categories in multiple areas, Yeah, that might seem odd just to switch a couple of linemen around and
Well,
say it's
Mitch,
a new play.
if you want to do that, then you'd almost have to make a rule, and everyone would have to have the same sub percentages, where
Yeah.
players are going to come and go at the same exact rate, and then you want to call the same play with different personnel. That's fine. But the way the percentages are, I mean, I think I used to keep mine at, come out of the game at 97, go back in at 99 or something like that. So my players were always in and out of the game. And I'm sure even wide receivers were taking over tight end slots because there weren't enough tight ends on the roster.
Right.
So I don't think people want to. I don't think people want another rule though that says they have to have 80 as your low number to leave the game and then 95 to come back.
No.
Yeah, well, that's what Mark uses right now anyway.
Yeah, right. Okay. I'll let you believe that.
Some teams must because Dean leads the league in rushing every year, and I kind of sometimes wonder, how does he do that? I've never really looked at his sub percentage, but when I used to coach, I had 3 guys or 4 guys all at the same amount of yards, all the same carries, all the same yards, because I didn't want one guy carrying the ball like that. But Dean seems to do it and leads the league in rushing, so I guess it works.
Okay, you just put a target on Dean's back because everybody's going to start looking at his stuff now. So, as we're coming to wrap the show up, I do have one more question because I know that we have some other obligations and things going on. So, if I can add this, hopefully I don't forget it. This question for both of you gentlemen, as far as creating new plays for this season, what are the rules as far as coaches submitting plays? How many plays can they submit during the preseason? How many do we submit during the regular season? What is your vision or philosophy for those going into the upcoming season since so many plays have been purged out and you guys are encouraging coaches to put new plays in?
Just for my own sanity and to allow myself a sufficient amount of time to run through the stuff and evaluate it, I've cut it back to, in the off season before the first week starts, it's 10 on each side of the ball. And once the season starts, it's 4 on each side of the ball.
And what is your table for them to submit it? Is it like right after the previous week's games? Is it, you can submit it between Sunday from Sunday to Tuesday is your cutoff.
Tuesday,
so that gives you.
Yeah, Tuesday's the cutoff because I've got to have a sufficient amount of time to review them. And if I've got to negotiate with people, go back and tell them, hey, this is wrong. You can't, your 4th guy is blitzing. And he doesn't have a half a second delay before he blitzes. So that's the kind of stuff. I get guys that sometimes they'll put a wide receiver decoy out there and forget to look for pass. Well, what happens is that wide receiver goes out and starts blocking somebody, and you end up with a penalty. So those are the kind of things I look for and try to get back to the people so they can fix them. And get them back into the play pool.
Okay. And for those coaches out there that are looking to design your own plays, definitely check on the forum. There is a section in there that discusses creating the plays. There is a scheme as far as how you want to name your plays, as far as the team, the designation for your primary person, if it's a running play, which holes they go through. So there's a whole scheme of that. So when you create your play, just don't throw 22 sweep right because Charlie's going to come back and say, no, it's good play, but it's not to the naming convention. So you have to go back and review all that.
They got to go through the naming convention.
So definitely, guys, check the forum. And if there's any questions, that's what they're there for. They've been doing this for a long time. They want to try to make the league better. That's why we're all doing what we're doing here. And, get them submitted. So we need some new plays out there. So as we are coming to wrap it up, is there anything else you want to add, Mitch?
No, I think we've had some great discussion, answered a lot of good questions, and I'm looking forward to the draft, which, Rich, you think that might be next weekend while I'm watching some college football? When do you think we'll be doing the draft?
I want you all to be prepared for maybe Friday morning, early afternoon for that first pick.
Okay. Now,
coming Friday?
What's that?
This coming Friday?
This coming Friday, yeah. Tomorrow, free agency is going to open, and usually by day 3 or 4, it starts slowing down. The players stop hitting the board, and it's just bidding. It's usually that Friday. I open the draft Friday, let's say at noon. I'm just throwing, maybe that's the time, and we begin from there as free agency continues.
Okay. And I think that pretty much sums it all up. If there's nothing else, Mitch, that you have on your end.
No, I think we're good.
All right. Well, I would like to thank both of you gentlemen for coming on to the show today and explaining some things for the league. And definitely, I'm looking forward to this season. So as we wrap it up, Mitch, you want to close it out?
Let's get it.